Oh, no, it's just started for me. Thank you. Over to you then, Philip. Enjoy your 15 minutes.
Cool, amazing. Thank you so much, Sean. And yes, it's kind of taken a couple of days or weeks to come up with Flip It with Philip, but hey, here we go. So hello, everyone. My name is Philip, and I am a teacher at Arezzo. And today, I would like to start with one of the most important questions, I guess, that most of us probably ask ourselves, and that's, what does a perfect lesson look like? If you have the answer, please, please, please do tell me, because I would love to know what a perfect lesson looks like. It's that kind of, you know, the thing we strive for. But in search of the response, I decided to ask the wider teacher community. And I posted this question in the British Council teacher community on Facebook. And these were the results that came back. According to most of us, a perfect lesson is one where students feel motivated, they learn, they're really confident, they can use the new language, they can personalize it, and really effectively learn it. And so as we all strive for perfection, of course, that's our aim, I think there is an old trick that can really, really help us achieve this. And the old trick is flipped classroom methodology. I'm calling it an old trick because it's been around for a long time. And even in 1993, Alison King published a book called From Sage on the Stage to Guide on the Side, where she really highlights the importance of the use of classroom time for construction of meaning rather than information transmission. And so when I discovered this methodology, I thought to myself, I would really like to try that. And that was still at the beginning of this academic year when we were teaching face-to-face. So I sat down with my DOS, Rachel, and we drafted my PPB plan for the year. And there it went into my SMART goals. I want to develop my competencies with flipped classroom methodology. So we really discussed it together, and we carefully selected a few classes for me to really trial it with. We looked at their needs analysis. We looked at what the learners wanted to get out of their courses and their time at IH Arezzo. And so a lot of thought and planning has really gone into that. And then it started. I started making and uploading grammar videos onto YouTube because that was my focus, using flipped classroom methodology to teach grammar to my students. And so I've selected the A2 B1 level, and I made a video a week, and I give them examples and lots of things. But let's kind of step back a little bit. And what is flipped classroom methodology? Is it sticking chairs and tables onto the ceiling? What are you talking about, Philip? Well, no. I think flipped classroom methodology is all about empowerment, about really working with your learners, helping them become more confident and really autonomous, independent learners. When we look at the methodology, flipped classroom methodology really focuses on prospective homework, where students really use that time at home to prepare for their lessons, to familiarize themselves with the new language and kind of become a little bit more confident with it. And they come into lessons to practice it and to really put it to life, which in comparison with traditional methodology, which we often do with lots of students, homework is there to practice and consolidate what they've learned in the lesson. So it's kind of flipping it around. I've been obviously using and focusing on grammar. However, you can really flip it with anything. You can flip it with vocabulary, where students really learn the new grammar at home. The new vocabulary at home, they learn the words, and they come into lesson to practice it. You can ask them to do some reading or some listening, again, in preparation for the lesson, So they are, again, a little bit more sure of themselves and they're familiar with what's coming. And the one really good thing that Flipped Classroom is amazing for is for creating time. It actually is a magic trick. Because if you imagine, if you had a normal face-to-face or an online lesson, how long does your grammar presentation take? Well, by the time you do a lead-in and you input it and you answer some questions, it probably takes maybe 15 to 20 minutes. Well, if you flip it and if students do study the grammar at home, all of a sudden, you don't need to spend 20 minutes. Don't get me wrong, I think the importance of being prepared and really, asking concept checking questions and all of that is extremely important with Flipped Classroom. But that takes 5 minutes, it doesn't take 20. And so all of a sudden you have this time which you can use for other things. Now, one of the questions we're all trying to answer today is, what's the most challenging thing when teaching online? And again, as I was kind of preparing for this presentation, and because I've been flipping it with grammar, I've decided to poll this question again on Facebook in the British Council teacher community. And these are the results. Exactly what I was hoping for. Everyone said teaching grammar is the most challenging thing online. Well, I might have changed this result ever so slightly, just so it fits my presentation. But here are the real results. Most of us think that class management is the most challenging thing online. And I would probably agree. It doesn't fit with what I was trying to say, but keep this in mind. I will come back to this. So, why should we use Flipped Classroom methodology? Well, reason number one is confidence. I could see my students really growing in confidence throughout the year. Because they are familiar with the language. You're not, surprising them with brand new things in the lesson. They've seen it already. And that is what the perfect lesson looks like. Students who are confident. The second reason, I think it really is all about independence and encouraging our students to be autonomous learners. It's an amazing skill that, we're all trying to develop in our students. And this is really encouraging them to do this. Another really, really important reason why I really believe in Flipped Classroom methodology is because we are all different. Oops, that went the wrong way. And because we are all different, we all have that one student who is incredibly strong. For language is really easy, They're natural language learners. Well, for them, that homework might be consolidation, and that is really, really important. But then, when they come into the lesson, you can set them that extra challenge. You can really push them. If you have a student who is a little bit weaker and they struggle with the language ever so slightly, well, you know what? When they come into the lesson, you can pull them into a separate breakout room, the beauty of teaching online, so it's not in front of everyone else. And while the other students are practicing the language, you can really explain that target language to them and you can really work with them individually. And of course, Flipped Classroom is more about this, student talk time, about really engaging the students and personalizing that language. And this is where I think classroom management comes in. Because, particularly with young learners, they don't really want to, spend 20 minutes learning grammar. They want to talk, they want to have fun, and they want to do things that they want to do. And that's certainly not grammar, as we all know. That's the beauty, because you do have those extra 10 to 15 minutes, because you're not boring them to death, as sometimes I do with grammar. You can use that time to really engage them and motivate them and bring it all to life. And of course, Flipped Classroom methodology is great with exam courses, where the focus really is on preparing students for the exams. You don't really have the time to go over grammar points. So again, getting them to pre-study that at home on their own, develop their autonomy, but then you can really focus on exam practice in the lessons. As I've mentioned, I've been experimenting with this since October, November, with a number of classes. And I have sent out a survey to my students to get some feedback. And as you can see, so far I've had 13 responses. 12 out of 13 students prefer it. It's not just me saying it, they love it, and they really see the benefits of it. But you can see there is that one red student who says, nah, not for me. I don't want homework. I don't have time. No, thank you. We all have that student. And you might think it's a challenge. Well, in a way it is. But here again comes the beauty of teaching online. We've got breakout rooms. So if they really can't pre-study at home, you can pull them aside. Again, while other students are working and practicing, you can work with that students in a separate breakout room individually and really explain that language, and they can really catch up. And even this one student with time, she did realize how much more progress the other students were making, and she has really gone out of her way to go and watch my videos, which was great. Now, you're probably sat here thinking, great, Philip, this is amazing. Well done, go you. But how can I do it? Well, I think actually it's really easy. The first thing I have to say is you really need to plan. You need to be a step ahead of yourself. You really need to think about the lesson after the lesson you're about to teach, particularly if you're making videos. You have to plan it, simply as that, because you need to have that homework, that kind of pre-teaching ready for your students before you set that homework. You don't have to be as OCD as I am. And certainly it was a little bit easier for me because I was following a standard commonly used course book. So I knew in what order I was doing the grammar topics, which is great. Get any help you can, trust me. And on the practical how-to, well, you can really easily make videos and upload them onto YouTube. You can just use your phone. It really doesn't have to be anything too exciting or fancy. Personally, I have been lucky because I do have the experience of making videos, but you can just use your phone. You can use a piece of paper, record yourself, upload it, and send a link to your students. You don't have to be a vlogger. Another really easy thing you can do that we probably all have is you can use PowerPoint. You can create your grammar presentation in a PowerPoint, and there is an amazing feature which not many people know about. You can record it as a video with a voiceover, which is brilliant. And that at the bottom, that bit.ly/f_PPT is a link. It's a link to the Microsoft website where there's a really, really handy tutorial on how to make these. Another really good thing you can use, and I mean, we're using it now, is Zoom. You can actually, as we are recording it here, you can record yourself. And you don't really need to have anyone in the meeting. You can just do it on your own, have your presentation, talk over it, end the meeting, record it, and send that file to your students. And the benefit is these files are really, really small, so they're easy to send. And if you think even that's too much and you want to try it tonight because you have a lesson and you love this idea, great, do it. You can just use the grammar bank at the back of the book, which is what I've been doing with my level 2 students, my elementary students, because I didn't have enough time to make so many videos. Even then, you know, if they can see the grammar before you teach it in the lesson and I have to like go into the details, it's no longer a surprise. They're a lot more sure of themselves. They're like, you know, like adverbs, what are adverbs? They're like, okay, adverbs, I'm ready. I've got a question for Philip, I'm going to ask. So to wrap it up, what does a perfect lesson look like? Well, I think Flip Classroom delivers it. It helps you motivate your students. They learn, they're confident. They can really personalize the language and they can be really sure of it. They can effectively learn and they will feel motivated because you will do the things that they want to do. All the talking, all the games, all the fun stuff. And they will feel comfortable because they know the language already. So I wholeheartedly believe in the flipped classroom methodology. I think it's an amazing thing to do, face-to-face or online. And I would really, really strongly encourage you to try it even today, if you've got any lessons coming up after this. And yeah, if you do have any questions, then guess I am out of time, but I'll do my best to answer afterwards. So yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, Filip, very much. That's really good. Do you want to stop sharing your screen there?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And we can see everybody. Okay, that's really great. Thanks, Filip. I mean, you've got a moment or two to answer. I think there's a question in the Q&A for you about, there's a couple of questions in the Q&A.
Yeah, I can see those. So students, good question. So I found the biggest challenge is that students don't do the work they're supposed, whether it's a video or an audio file. I think that's a very kind of common struggle with flipped classroom that I kind of touched on earlier on as well. Because some students just don't have the time. I mean, I think this is the benefit, as I said earlier, of really using the flipped classroom online. It's because we can't force students to do homework, but what we can do, we can support them in a separate breakout room. You know, if it's a case of 1 or 2 students, not a majority of them, then you can really pull them aside in a separate room. And you can really input that language if they hadn't done it before, their lessons.
That's really helpful, Filip. Can I just, sorry to cut you off, because I think we're going to get ready for the next presenter. If you just want to, since you're a presenter, so you can answer those, you can type the answers to those in the Q&A to those participants, so they can get the answers. So I think that'd help us. So thanks very much indeed.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.